So I'm at Bike and Board, and Chris Wilkie, master suspension setup expert, is going to set me up on this Rocky Mountain pipeline. 27.5. How much travel? 140?
140 millimeters front and rear.
140 front and rear. So this bike weighs 29 pounds even with pedals and water bottle cage and massive tires. So I took this bike out in the Pittsfield State Forest to see if I could break some of my Strava times. Specifically, when I rode the Scott Genius, I broke my fastest uphill time on the bottom half of the Turner Trail by 30 seconds or so, and I didn't break or even come close really to my fastest downhill time on the Scott Genius. So let's see how this bike does. Now I'm going to take a little bit different route up to the start of the segments, and there's one climb I'm very curious to see how it is because it's very steep and I have a hard time keeping my front wheel on the ground. Let's see how it goes on this bike. Right now I'm in my lowest gear. I'm climbing a fairly steep hill that sometimes gives me trouble. Oh no, I'm not. I'm on the precursor to that hill. But I have bob going on, which is one thing I don't like in the rear shock. Pedal-induced bob. And I'm in the trail mode, or the middle mode. I guess I'm going to leave it there for this little hill here. This is climbing up this really nice. Really nice. So the rear shock has three modes: open, trail, and locked out. And for climbing, for me, I really preferred it in the locked out mode, so I didn't have any bob. I do like front wheel is definitely staying down on the ground, even though that was fairly steep. This is kind of feels similar to my Sherpa as far as the bob. I run my Sherpa locked out all the time, and I'll probably run this locked out for the climb anyway. Hopefully I'll remember to put it into trail mode. These bars are quite wide. Brakes are quite strong. I run my brakes really, really weak, so I almost never skid. So feels wicked on the downhills. Here we're coming into the start of my climb, and we'll see how this bike does. Nice. Used to the eagle shifting. Whoa, just hit a tree. It's fucking wide bars. I hate wide bars, but I know everybody else loves them. It's gonna make me nervous for the downhill. Another tree. Man. Okay, so that's the climb. So I had my 5th fastest time ever out of 98 times that I've ridden up that hill, which is pretty amazing. However, a week ago on the Scott Genius, I had a time that was 34 seconds faster than that, which is my all-time fastest time up the mountain. So I'd have to say the Scott Genius climbs better than this bike, but this bike's not bad. Christ. Almost hit a tree. So on the downhill, I tied my second fastest time ever and was only 3 seconds off my fastest time ever, which is on a Rocky Mountain Sherpa, which is a bike I'm very, very familiar with. But comparing it to the Scott Genius, I was 8 seconds faster on the Rocky Mountain Pipeline going down the hill than on the Genius. So I just got done riding the Rocky Mountain Pipeline, and here are my impressions. The thing I did not like about this bike was the rear shock is very active. There's a lot of pedal-induced bob. I loved the drivetrain with this GX Eagle. I got enough gears to climb the hill well. I love these big fat tires. These are very aggressive tires, which are definitely something I like. I think these are more aggressive than what was on the Scott Genius. I was not a fan of the very, very wide bars and was a little tentative going down the trail. The cockpit felt very, very short. I did push the seat back as far as it would go. I did not like the seat at all. Found the seat to be quite uncomfortable. At 29 pounds is not bad weight-wise. I think that's very similar to the Scott Genius 720. I definitely loved where the dropper post lever is. That's a very convenient location. Most are up above and are very difficult to operate. This is a piece of cake to operate. Unfortunately, that's an awfully tiny lever to turn with your fingers, and reaching down underneath here to lock and unlock the shock is not ideal, but it worked fairly well. The High Tower is another bike I was considering, and unlike the High Tower, this has room for a full-size water bottle. By the way, I'm kind of a huge fan of the color of this bike because my jacket's orange, my helmet's orange, my chainsaw's orange, my shoes have a little bit of orange in them, and this bike is kind of pretty. I like it a lot. Got the Fox 34 orange, Stan's Baron rims, which are nice with DT Swiss 310 hubs, also very nice. Fox Float DPS rear shock. We have a little orange in there, orange on the bars. Very nice. Very nice. So I'd have to say this did not climb as well as the Genius and doesn't have the twin lockout levers, which I really do like about the Scott Genius. But going downhill, this was fantastic, and I think it's a great bike. I shouldn't really say it didn't climb well because it did have my fifth fastest time out of 98 efforts. Decent climber, great descender, and fun bike to ride. Thanks for watching.